Hey guys, thank you for joining us. Today we wanted to talk to you about why some people seem to have more favor than others. Robert and I are reading a scripture today and we wanted to kind of speak to you about that. So what was it?
Yeah, we were reading out of Proverbs chapter 3, and it was verse 3 and 4. And it says, "Let not mercy and truth forsake you." It says, "Bind them around your neck, write them on a tablet of your heart, and so find favor and high esteem in the sight of God and man." And when we were reading this, it really did stand out because it tells you that you will find favor in the sight of God and man. That's a huge scripture. So when I read something like that, I want to know, okay, how do I find favor, right, in the sight of God? And it said, let not mercy and truth, right? Mercy and truth. So when we dove in to that a little bit more, that word mercy was really being kind, like kindness and lovingness. So being a kind and loving person is huge in the sight of God. And I know in my life, I have learned that I need to have some grace and I need to be sometimes a little more loving towards people instead of being so focused on what is right and wrong. Just being loving towards people is something that I'm constantly having to work on, to being there to support them and to be with them in their journey and not so focused on what is right and wrong. Just being loving and supporting in their season. But I know you do a really good job of that. And so how do you do that?
Well, with me, I think it's just more so like putting myself in other people's shoes. We had talked about the word mercy earlier. It means to basically to bow yourself or bow down your neck and as an equal to others. So that being said, I feel like when we put ourselves in other people's shoes, we consider ourselves an equal to them. And then we can have more compassion and grace and mercy towards them. And Jesus is the best example of that. He was fully God and fully man. He came down on earth to put himself in our shoes.
It's so true. And that is huge. That example of Jesus right there shows how important that is to God, to be a loving and kind-hearted person. And then the other one talks about truth. And this is really important because it was talking about being faithful. This truth, being trustworthy and a faithful person. And I've experienced this a lot in my life because I've moved a lot and I've been at a lot of different locations, and it is very difficult to have someone help you move and to find faithful people to be there for you. And so for us as Christians, this is huge. For us to be faithful because other people are looking to us to be the example of God. They're looking to us as Christians and they're saying, hey, I'm looking to see how God is through you. And so God is so faithful and so trustworthy in our life. And so we need to be that example to other people. We need to stand by our word. We need to be there when other people need us, no matter what it is, to be a trustworthy person, to stand firm into what we say and do in our life. And this is really important. And I know you've been through situations like that in your own life.
Yeah. So I had a family member that was struggling with addiction, as you know, and I always end up crying when I talk about it. But I remember that this family member would call me and I would be scared and I'd want to reach out to other people to come and to help that family member because I felt like, well, they can do something about it. I can't necessarily, I'm not strong enough for this. But then I started learning that's not what my family member needed at the time. So then I became that confidant. So that family member would call me and struggling with whatever they were struggling with, and I would just listen. I wouldn't tell anybody, and I would just pray for that person. But over time, he received healing through that, from me being there, being a trustworthy person, not being judgmental, and just walking through life with him.
Yeah, and that's huge. I've learned that personally in my own life because a lot of times I would think that it was maybe a pastor's job or a church member's job to be there for people. But I learned myself that God places us into the paths and lives of other people so we can help them, so we can be that person. And so God has equipped each and every one of us with the strength and ability to be that person for other people so they can see how faithful and trustworthy that God is through us and through our own life. And so if you see at the end of that scripture, it said to bind this around your neck, to write it as a tablet in your heart. And this is just making sure that we absorb this, that we keep these principles close, to be a faithful and loving person and to be kind to other people. And God will show us the favor and the love that we are seeking ourselves. So when we can show this to others, God is able to show this kind of love and faithfulness and to be there for us in our own life. And so I know when we keep these principles as our focus and our foundation every single day, and when we wake up and we focus on these things throughout the day, that it is going to be able to show the love of Christ to so many people. And so we hope that you find this encouraging. I hope that you can apply these to your life and God can begin to do some amazing things in and through you.